right now we're reliving last night's 111-73 win Alabama had over number 24 Mississippi State, where 22 threes found the bottom of the sack.
Pretty remarkable. Bryan Passink saw every one of the 22 threes courtside with Chris Stewart and Roger Hoover and Tom Stipe there on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. What's up, BP? How are you, man?
Doing great, guys. How are y'all today?
Doing fantastic. Thanks a lot. Would you say, I mean, you've watched every one of them overall, might that be Alabama's best overall performance this year?
Well, it's hard to argue with that. I mean, just really impressive from the tip. Alabama got a great start. That's obviously been an issue for this team, down double digits each of the last 3 games. And so to start well and pretty much play at a high level on both ends of the floor through 40 minutes, to beat an SEC team by 38 points is impressive, especially in this league. And then, oh, by the way, Mississippi State is really good. They're a top 25 team. So you didn't do this against a bottom feeder. You did it against a team that I think has a chance to make a run, maybe to the second weekend or further in the NCAA tournament. Very impressive performance by Alabama last night.
I think average fans understand good offense, and then I think we all struggle on what is good defense. So what, as a guy who plays the game as an analyst, what did Alabama do that impressed you defensively last night? Why did it feel different?
Well, guys are flying around. The one thing you can see, whether you know the scouting report or not, is it's pretty easy to see if guys are playing really hard and tough and intense. That was the case from the tip. Now, the thing that not just average fans, but average broadcasters like myself don't always understand is the scouting report on particular players at certain places on the floor. You're going to go behind the screen, you're going to go over it. How's your teammate on the help side playing it? Don't always know those things. So I can tell, looking over at the coaching staff, if they guarded an action the correct way according to the scouting report. So I'm watching the game, I'm watching our coaches, and you could tell a lot by that. But the one thing that we can all tell is effort. And Alabama's effort from start to finish, I thought, was great. That's something that Nate Oates and this coaching staff have really been emphasizing, that their potential as a team to possibly win the SEC regular season, the tournament in Nashville, and make a deep run, hopefully to a Final Four and even further, and compete for a national championship, is how much better this team gets on the defensive end. That's been a point of emphasis every day in practice, and I think they're getting better. If you look at the last 2 games against 2 really good teams in Kentucky, a high-powered offense, Mississippi State, a team with Josh Hubbard, one of the best players in the country, the defensive effort and intensity was through the roof. That's a great sign as we get into the end of the regular season, and especially when you consider what lies ahead in these next 3 regular season games.
Okay, so I don't want to get too far into the X's and O weeds here, but a lot of people would be like, oh, if we're in the man and I'm supposed to guard 12, I just guard 12. But you're telling me that in a scouting report for a different player, I may be going under screens or over screens or switching off, that it gets that intense and complicated on a game plan on a scouting report.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, you're guarding Cam Matthews, who's a great player at Mississippi State, but he's a sub 30% three-point shooter. He wants to drive to the basket. He's aggressive, taking it to the rim, where Josh Hubbard can do that for sure, but one of the best three-point shooters in the SEC. You don't want to let him breathe at the three-point line. And so you're also depending on your teammates to help, to hedge, sometimes double, depending on what types of coverages you're in. But, yeah, the scouting report is so detailed at the college level. And, that's one thing that I see from freshmen coming in is you can play super hard, but if you go the wrong way, you can go the wrong way full speed and you're still out of position. I always appreciate a guy, if you're going to make a mistake, and coaches say this all the time, if you're going to make a mistake, you do want to make it at full speed. But really the ideal thing is to not make mistakes. Play hard, play smart, attention to detail on the scouting report. And I thought Alabama has done a great job of that the last couple of games.
Bryan Passink, the analyst for the Crimson Tide Sports Network, with us. Somebody in the mybookie.ag chat room. Let me see if I can give credit.
Wait.
What?
Big fan of feathers?
I don't.
Is that what's behind you, by the way? Are those feathers?
They are feathers.
Yeah. For
You
quails?
guys can relate. I have daughters, and
Yeah.
they help me with the interior design of my house. So credit to Blair and Sarah Passink on
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
the feathers and anything in this house that I didn't do, which is a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know if there were particular birds, like if you're a big outdoorsman, the duck feather, quail feather or anything like that. I assume, I'm not an outdoorsman, I assume quails have feathers. Is that true?
I think they do, yes.
Yeah.
We are two non-outdoorsmen trying to talk about feathers right now.
I think I know quails have feathers, yes. James was
I play golf outside. Does that count?
Yeah,
me
know,
too.
Does that
Me
make
too.
me an outdoorsman?
James had the comment I was looking for. Pasink's facial and body expressions on the court cam during the games after every turnover is priceless. Only 11 last night, though. That is an improvement, 11 turnovers.
Listen, if we beat a ranked team by 38 points, my body language is better than it has been in a few of these games that we've lost and turned the ball over. Listen, that court cam is embarrassing for myself. I didn't realize I was making the facial expressions and the body language that I am, but it's comedy. So last night was better. I didn't get too frustrated with any of the calls or any of the turnovers. I need to tell Nate and the guys, just win by 38 points and everybody's going to be happy. It's not that complicated.
So, yeah, absolutely. Just do that every week and everybody's fine. But, we talked about it, and I don't know what your perspective was, but there were times maybe it felt like in an effort not to turn it over, maybe Alabama wasn't their real self. I mean, I've noticed Nate Oates even maybe changes his language a little bit. He starts talking about we got to limit stupid turnovers. I mean, when you play at the pace Alabama plays, when you're scoring 111 points, 98 points, there's going to be some turnovers. I mean, that's just, you really can't avoid it. So there's an acceptable level for Nate Oates, isn't there?
Yeah, there's definitely good. I mean, if you're going to put it in a category of good turnovers, you're trying to make a play. You're playing at breakneck speed. Alabama's the fastest paced team in college basketball, leading the country in scoring. And so you look at the stat sheet, and last night, I think we would all agree Alabama did a good job taking care of the ball against a team in Mississippi State that's second in the SEC in steals. You still look up and you had double-digit turnovers, but as many possessions as there are, that's not a bad number at all. And one thing that has given me encouragement over the course of the season is that typically Nate Oates teams, because you've got so many new players in this day and age of college basketball that are adjusting to a different tempo than they've ever played. I mean, nobody in this program has ever played at the pace that Alabama does. And with that comes maybe a little more turnovers in the beginning of the season and even in the middle. But towards the end, you hope to see those turnover numbers come down. That's starting to be the case. And last night was a great example because go back to Saturday, Kentucky's not a team that creates a ton of turnovers. They're a lot like Alabama. They want to get up and down. They've got guys that can guard. They're solid on the defensive end, but they're not taking chances. Where Mississippi State, they're taking some chances, and they're putting you in positions where they can create turnovers and get steals. And I thought Alabama did a good job of taking care of the ball. They were great on offense. Obviously, the shots made, 22 made threes, is an incredible number. But playing as well as they were offensively, moving the ball, playing with pace. And I think the stats ended up being 28 assists to just 11 turnovers. And that's 26 to 28 assists on, I think, 37 or 38 field goals. So Alabama was moving the ball. You hear Nate Oates talk all the time about ball movement and also player movement, the ball not sticking. It wasn't last night against a really good defensive team in Mississippi State.
And that seems to sort of be the MO when Philon or Holloway is running the point now and letting Mark be off the ball a little bit, something Nate's talked about. Talk a little bit more about that. Why do you like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, I assume you like that lineup where Philon and Holloway sort of initiating the offense?
Yeah, no, I like it. I like it a lot. Listen, I like Mark Sears on the ball, off the ball. And I think what that does is it gives the defense different looks. And I thought that was a big reason for Alabama's success, especially late last year with Aaron Estrada, a guy that can really break you down off the dribble and Mark Sears was able to find open space, whether on the ball or off the ball. And he's such a great shooter, especially a catch and shoot guy. When you have LeBaron Fallon driving the lane, Aiden Holloway, the quickness and unselfishness of both of those guys. And if you bring a double team, you can't double team off Mark. Those guys have done a great job of finishing at the rim, but also if help comes, they're moving the ball. Mark's been able to benefit from that. And we've heard Nate Oates talk about the need for Mark to trust some of those new players like he did a veteran last year in Aaron Estrada. He's starting to do that and playing the best basketball of his career. And that's saying something. I mean, he was preseason, first team All-American, SEC preseason player of the year, led Alabama to a Final Four last year. And right now he's playing his best basketball on both ends of the floor. A great sign for Alabama.
Bryan Passink will be in Knoxville this weekend as Alabama takes on Tennessee. One seed implications all over the place in that game for both teams. There's this perception that when you play a Rick Barnes team, the officiating crew matters. You do not have to use names here. But when you see, I don't know when you and Chris get the notification who's officiating, but when you see those names, will that have meaning when you're playing a game at Tennessee?
Yeah, a little bit. And just, even with different officiating crews, in particular officials, you just never know how a game's going to be officiated. And that's not something that the players need to worry about. That's for the coaches to handle and for the broadcasters to complain about. So, that is, but it will be a key because Tennessee, the nation's number one defense, and the reason they're the number one ranked efficiency defense is they are so physical. And we've talked about Alabama needing to take care of the ball, and they did that in the last two games. But they're going to see a level of defense and physicality that maybe we haven't seen since Houston in Las Vegas or even Texas A&M. Mississippi State is a team that plays with a ton of physicality. But when you look at the length, the quickness, Tennessee has all of it on the defensive end. Oh, by the way, they're not bad on the offensive end. They're a potential national champion. They're really good there in Knoxville. So Alabama's going to have to be ready to play on both ends. But I think ball security and being ready for a physical game and not looking to the officials. If a foul is not called, you got to play through it and play with toughness. Alabama's done that the last couple of games, and hopefully that carries on to Knoxville on Saturday.
I will tell you, I think I'm the person that told Passink at game day who was officiating the Auburn-Alabama game.
Right.
Because Little T had shared it with me, so I showed it to Passink, and he was able to give me a scouting report on each of the three officials.
I think he had seen one of them a lot.
Yeah. This guy will lead the league in reviews. He started running through them, so it was really good. Hey, one thing before you get out of here. Chris Youngblood. Mark did mark things last night, scoring and assists, but Youngblood, his shot sometimes on the catch and release seems to be so quick. When you look at what Youngblood has brought to this team, put that into words for me. What do you see and see why and his contribution to this roster?
Wow, he means so much to this team. First of all, he's a coach on the floor, fifth-year senior from Tuscaloosa. It means so much to him to put on the Alabama uniform. And he didn't have a preseason because of injury and had surgery, and it took some time to come back. So we've seen what he can do, and I think he's going to get better and better as we get into towards the end of the year, as we saw last night, into the SEC and NCAA tournament. But he's a guy that is a great shooter, has strength, can guard, high basketball IQ, and when you've got guys like LeBaron Fallon, Mark Sears, who can get downhill with a dribble drive, you can't help off a Chris Youngblood. That's going to help them getting in the lane. But knowing that you've got a veteran that you can trust that's a knockdown shooter. And when Aiden Holloway, Chris Youngblood, Mark Sears are open from the three-point line, I mean just a sliver of an opening, you're shocked when they miss. These guys are playing great basketball right now, but it's going to be tested because these last three games of the season are as tough as it gets. I've never seen a final three games like Alabama has, going to Tennessee, number 5 in the country, hosting number 2, Florida, and then on the road at number 1, Auburn. So hope they continue to play at a high level on both ends of the floor And if they do, Alabama's going to have a great chance in all of these games, but it is not going to be easy.
Georgia had Florida down 26. Is Florida even that good?
Ask Auburn. They're pretty good.
No, Florida's dang good, obviously.
At Auburn, Tennessee.
Yeah.
At home, they've beaten 2 number 1 teams. Listen, the SEC is so good, and I think even though Florida lost and came back, obviously that was a close game at the end. Felt like they would come back and make that a game. They certainly did. But this league is so good because you've got teams that are bubble teams like Georgia that are capable of beating the best of the best in this league. South Carolina's the same way. I think they were 1-14. They had Florida beat. They had Auburn on the ropes. They've been really good against some of the better teams in this league. This league is ridiculous, top to bottom. There are no easy wins. That's why I appreciate what Alabama was able to do last night against a really good Mississippi State team.
All right, you can hear Bryan along with Chris Stewart, Tom Stipe, Roger Hoover, the entire gang from Knoxville on Saturday on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Find a station near you or watch BP on the camera there, as people seem to enjoy doing. Bryan, thank you very much for the time. Have a great week.
All right, guys. Appreciate y'all having me.
All right, buddy. Good talking with you. Bryan Passink with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline.